Good evening. I'm Lauren Mullen, and I'm here to talk with you about evidence-based writing and some instructional shifts that should probably occur to make those improvements. To start, we're going to talk about some brief high-stakes testing that are utilized for evaluating writing instructions, such as the SAT, ACT plus writing, and various AP College Board assessments. These assessments are ineffectively aligned to actual instruction that occurs in the classroom. And because of that, there's no real clear or consistent proof of student improvement. And that is mostly in part due to the variance of instruction that occurs from one state or even one classroom to another. And because there are so many differences, it makes it difficult for students to relate to the material. Evidence-based writing utilizes primary and secondary resources, textual evidence. It asserts a claim in response to an essential question and is usually evaluated best with an analytical rubric. One of the purposes that we want to look at this today is because there are benefits to having vertical alignment with instruction that include common language, common methods of evaluation like a rubric, and that also kind of fosters better alignment across multiple disciplines, and as a result will boost literacy rates and the scores with written expression. Here we have two different sets of standards that both address argumentative evidence-based writing. The first one is from English Language Arts, and the second one is from writing standards that are utilized for history, science, technology. As you can see, there are two very different focuses within the two sets of standards, but they're still asking us to address the same skill. So that's where you're seeing a disconnect. Now, one way to address this disconnect is through some teacher training. Uniform instruction, is that the key? Maybe not necessarily uniform instruction, but maybe presenting some formulaic writing formats for these students to utilize. There are three methods that I've seen work well. One is the RACE, and that would generally be implemented for grades 3, 4, and 5. Then you have the SLAM format, which goes for middle school, 6, 7, and 8. And then the AP structure that's adapted from the AP College Board exams for the 9 through 12th grade. So for the primary grades, the basics of the RACE, it breaks it down to where they're restating the question. Then they're answering the question. Then they integrate evidence. And then they have to explain the relevancy of that evidence to the question. It does ask them to do some complex thinking skills, but these steps can be best taught one at a time and not in the same space as each other, but first teach them how to restate the question, then teach them how to answer, and so on and so forth. It's also helpful to color code. Give each one a different color: yellow, orange, green, blue, whatever you prefer to use. Make sure it's consistent. Then we have the middle school grades, where it's a variation of the RACE format. They're not restating the question, they're just using part of that question to write that first sentence. And this is utilized in the body paragraph, not in your introduction, just for clarification. Then you have your locating of your evidence. It's the same, you're integrating the evidence. You're going to translate it, though. When you add to the text, you're going to paraphrase and make that connection to an external event or experience or piece of literature. And then in the secondary grade level, you'll see there's a huge change. After the students have gone through and used RACE, and then they've graduated up to SLAM, then they're going to transition into making grand statements, defensible thesis with clear line of reasoning for their introduction. Then they do the interpretation, their topic sentence. They cite their evidence using that concrete detail. Then they're going to place it in the context of the text. They're going to paraphrase, they're going to translate. Then they're going to respond to the actual question. And that's the biggest change between primary, middle, and secondary, is all these additional steps that occur. Improvement in writing, it's important to understand it's possible. It's formulaic, is using formulaic writing is a safe place to start. However, we must also integrate peer evaluations. We need to make sure that our students are reading and writing every day and that we talk to them about the text because sometimes they don't really know how to get started even talking about it. So, with that in mind, we want to make sure that we also take into account that we have non readers. This is where John Dewey's philosophy of child centered instruction comes into play. Um, Remember, we're here, we've already gotten our education. This education is for our students. We're here to facilitate their learning. And when we do that, we should give them the choice of what they're to read, of what they're going to write about, and even let them lead common discussions on those topics. Okay, thank you so much.